The topic of discussion is the continuation part of the biostatistics, that is the part 2. Here we are going to deal with the sampling. So we are going to see what exactly is sampling, why do we need sampling, and what is the sampling procedure and the various methods involved in sampling. So before going into sampling, first let us have a brief note on what exactly is the research. So what is research? Research is something that is an organized and systematic way of finding answers to the question. So if you have to find answers to a particular question, then you will have to do this research. But what exactly is done in research? So because we want questions for the answers, we need to first give a problem statement, that is the research question, and based on that we do a background literature search, and we get few data based on which we decide the variables and hypothesis, and a research design is being selected and a methodology is written, based on which the sampling method is selected and a sample of people is selected from which the data is collected. Now let us see what is sampling. So as I told you, you need a group of people that are the representative units of a particular population for which you are going to give the answer for the question. So a sampling is a procedure where you select a sample which is a smaller group of people but hopefully representative collection of units from a population used to determine facts about that population. So this is what is sampling. It is how you exactly select a group of people in a particular sample. Now why do we need sampling? You can do it on the each and every person in a particular population, but why do you have why do you need a small sample? Because you cannot do the research on each and every person in a population. It is not practically possible. So we need this sampling to reduce the time and cost and to give results with a better accuracy. It even saves labor and quality of the study is also better. So that is the reason why we need this sampling. Next thing is, what exactly is the sampling process? So this comprises of, first thing, you need to define the population of the concern to which you are going to assign the answer for the question that has been framed. We need a sampling frame, a sampling method, sample size, based on which the sampling is done, and from that particular sample we collect the data. So first we have to define the population. So how do you define this population? So a population can be defined as a complete set of elements that possess some common characteristics. That is, there are people who have the similar characteristics. The first thing that we have is the entire group of people. This entire group of people is generally known as the target population. Now again we have a study population, that is a portion of the target population to which the researcher have access. So this is known as the study population, but even this is not included in the research. The next thing is the sample. So these are the actual people that exactly participate in the research. Now when do you select the target population to be your entire population? When the population is very small. Yes, when the population is very small, you can do the research on each and every person. So you can directly select the entire population to be your sample. And when you have extensive resources, so that you can do the study on each and every person in the entire population, and when you don't expect a very high response. So these are the situations where you consider the target population to be your sample. Now let us see what is the sampling frame. So the sampling frame is nothing but it is the list from which the potential respondents are drawn. That is, the potential people who are considered in the sample are drawn. So this sampling frame that which we get must be representative of the population. That is, this group of people from the list, they must be representative of the original population to which the answers are to be assigned. Now let us understand, or let us give a brief note of this entire thing. So who do you want to generalize the answer that we get from the research question that we have asked, so that the research is being performed? So we generalize this answer to the theoretical population, that is the entire population, or you can say the target population. But what population can a researcher get access to? Definitely the researcher cannot get access to the entire population, so the researcher gets the access to only the study population, which is a part of the target population. Now, how can you get access to the study population? You can get access to this study population by the sampling frame, as we have seen the sampling frame to be a list of from which the potential respondents are drawn. So we get access to the study population through this sampling frame. Now, as told previously, who is actually participating in this study? So who is in your study? It is the final group of people or final group of individuals in a particular sample. So it is the people in this sample who actually participate in the study. Now let us see the different sampling methods. So we have a probability sampling. So this is one in which every unit in the population has an equal chance of being selected in the samples. That is, they have a chance greater than 0 of being selected in the sample. That is the reason it is known as probability sampling. The next one is non-probability sampling, where some elements of population have no chance of selection. So not each and every person gets an equal chance. Under probability sampling, we have simple random sampling, systematic random sampling, stratified random sampling, and cluster sampling. We are going to discuss each one in detail again. Whereas under non-probability sampling, we have convenience sampling, snowball sampling, purposive or a judgmental sampling, and then we have this quota sampling. Now let us see each one of this in detail. Under the probability, the first one which we have is the simple random sampling. So it is generally applicable whenever we have a population which is small in size, homogeneous, and this population is readily available, and all the people involved in the frame, they have an equal chance of being selected. And this is done by assigning a number to each of the member in the sampling frame. Now, what are the techniques which are used in this simple random sampling? Because you assign a number to each and every person in the population, you select randomly by lottery method. So you pick a number and that is included in your sample, or they can be selected by table of random numbers or software programs where they randomly give you certain numbers, so you can include them in the sample till you reach your sample size. So this is how a simple random sampling is done. Now let us take an example. Suppose we have 500 college students and we need to conduct a short survey in order to assess their oral hygiene status. So among the 500 students in the entire population, we need to have a sample of only 70 students, so that the oral hygiene status of 70 students is assessed and the result is being generalized to the entire 500 people. Now how is this done? Because you know 500 people are given a number and randomly you select the numbers till you reach 70 people in the sample. So this is how simple random sampling is done. Now let us see the advantages and disadvantages of this simple random sampling. So basically this type of sampling is easy to calculate and it does not require any additional information apart from the complete list of subjects. So this is important thing, you need to have this complete list of subjects, only then you can give a number and you can randomly select the numbers. So these are the advantages. Coming to the disadvantages, it is impracticable if the sampling frame is large. So obviously when you have huge number of populations, you cannot give number to a huge number of populations, so it is impracticable there. And minority subgroups may not be present in sufficient numbers. So sometimes the minority subgroups which we claim may not be present in sufficient numbers. Now moving to the next one, that is systematic random sampling. From the name only we can understand here this method is done in a systematic way, but again it is related to this random. That is, here it involves a random start and then proceeds with the selection of every nth element. That is, it initiates by random start but continues with a systematic way of selecting, where nth is calculated by population size divided by sample size. So for an example, here we have a population size of 300 divided by the sample size 100, which gives the total of n to be 3. So then we make small chits bearing 1 to 3 and randomly select a number by lottery method, that is randomly you select, and we get 2. So the select number starts from 2 randomly, and from that you add 3, fifth, and again you add 3, that is 8. So every nth element from that is selected. That is why it is called systematic random sampling. Now the advantages are, it is easy to select and it is evenly spread over entire reference population. So because every nth element is being selected. Now coming to the disadvantages, sample may be biased if hidden periodicity in population coincides with that of selection. Suppose the problem that we are being assessed in this particular research, that problem is also occurring in the similar periodicity in the population, and that coincides with our selection, then that is a disadvantage. The next one is the stratified sampling. So here initially the population is divided into some small homogeneous subgroups. These homogeneous subgroups are known as strata. That is the reason it is known as stratified sampling. So the major aim or a goal behind the stratified sampling is to guarantee that all groups in the population are adequately represented. So that is why this stratified sampling is taken. Now let us see how this small groups of homogeneous people are done. So in a hospital, if we have to do a research on different type of doctors, so we have a group of gynecologists. Okay, in doctors only we have subgroups, right? A group of gynecologists, then we have a group of radiologists. After that we have a group of ophthalmologists. So these are the different subgroups in a specialty, that is doctor. Now one interesting factor is that now inside a subgroup all are homogeneous. So within a stratum you have uniformity, homogeneous, but between you have difference, that is heterogeneous. Now let us see the advantages and disadvantages of this stratified sampling. Here the advantages are, it ensures a high degree of representatives in all subgroups of the population. So whenever you have a population with such subgroups, it is very important that you select this type of sampling. And coming to the disadvantages, if the strata are not clearly defined, then you have a very much difficulty in selecting the strata, clearly defining them, and analysis also may be difficult. Now let us move to the next one, that is the cluster sampling. So this cluster sampling is nothing but it is an improvised version or an improvement of the stratified sampling. Here this cluster sampling is mostly done when you have a large geographically scattered population. So whenever you have a huge geographically scattered population, and in them if you want to make the subgroups, that is the clusters, then we have this cluster sampling. Now to reduce the cost of the sampling of a population scattered over a large geographic area, this type of sampling is done. And not only that, this cluster sampling allows to gather the data quickly and cheaply at the expense of possible over or under representing certain groups of people. Now for an example, let us take that if we want to find out the oral hygiene status of college students in a particular city, we need to get the list of colleges in the particular city. There would be more than 200 colleges, but our sample would be only 1000 students. So you randomly select 20 colleges from 200 colleges in the city. So that is the first college, then we have second college, then you have third college, and from the 20 colleges randomly you select students till we get 1,000 population of the sample. So here you can see that within clusters you have heterogeneous, because the group of students would be heterogeneous, it would be different from each person. Between the clusters all are college students, that is, they are homogeneous. Now let us see the advantages of this cluster sampling. Here because you are selecting the sample whenever you have a large geographic area with scattered population, it cuts down the cost of preparing a sampling frame and even the administrative cost, whereas the disadvantages are here by doing such sampling, the sampling error is high when you compare it with that of the stratified random sampling. So this is about the probability sampling methods. Now let us move to the non-probability sampling methods. Under the non-probability sampling methods, the first one that we have is the convenience sampling. So from the name only we understand that here the selection of the people into the sample are done based on the convenience of the researchers, that is based on his comfort. Now selection of whichever individuals are easiest to reach, it is done at the convenience of the investigator, that is based on his reach. For example, a group of students in a university want to conduct a study about stress levels on clinical instructors. They interview clinical instructors they knew in school and a couple of instructors who handle them in the area and few others who are known to them. That is based on their convenience, who all they know, only on them they conduct this study. So this is how is the convenience sampling is done. Now coming to the advantages of this convenience sampling, it saves time, money and effort. Okay, that it is very convenient. Now coming to the disadvantages, because you are doing it in a not accurate way, so this cannot be considered to be an accurate sampling method, and it cannot be considered an accurate way to assess the representativeness, and it restriction is done in generalizing the findings to the entire population. The next one in the non-probability sampling is the snowball sampling. Here this type is done with the help of study subjects to choose the other potential subjects. That is a useful tool for building networks and increasing the number of participants. That is, first initially you select a person, and from that person, based on his information, you choose the next person into your network. So it depends greatly on the initial contacts and the connection methods. Now for example, let us take suppose we are doing a study on some oral cancer patients. I only know one oral cancer patient, so I go to that person and ask him if he knows any other oral cancer patient. So based on him, based on his information, I would select the second member. So this is a network which is greatly dependent on the initial contacts. Now the advantages of this particular snowball sampling are, this is very good for locating people of a specific population. So if you have a particular specific population, then it is very good method. Whereas the negative, that is the limitations of this type of sampling, is that it is heavily reliant on the skill of the individual, and it is a time consuming process, because you need to ask each and every person whether they know the similar person. So it is a time consuming process. Now the next one is known as the purposive or a judgmental sampling. So from the name only we can understand that here the selection of the individual into the sample is based on a particular purpose or based on a judgment. So when you want to access a particular group of people based on purpose, then you take the sample, and based on they meeting your judgment or the purpose, you reject the people or you take them into the sample. Suppose you want to do a study on non-working mothers, you go to the homes when their children are at the school, and you ask the women of the house whether they are having children and whether the woman has a day job. So based on these answers, you either accept them to be in your population or reject them to not be in your population. So whether they are reaching your purpose or not, based on that you select the people. Now coming to the advantages of this particular sample, here the samples are chosen well based on a certain criteria, that is a certain purpose is being served, and there is assurance of quality responses because already you are selecting the people based on your purpose being reached. When coming to the disadvantages, here sometimes biased selection of samples may occur because it is your judgment whether you take the people into the sample based on the purpose being reached or not. So biased selection may occur, and this is a time consuming process. Now the last one in the non-probability sampling is the quota sampling. Here initially a quota is established and there is a freedom to choose any respondent as long as the quota is met. So what is this quota? For example, a researcher wants some 40 opinions from 40 individuals about an event in a particular population. So to make the small representation out of 200 people in a particular population, that is the total size of the population is 200, which comprises of around 120 boys and 80 girls, but you only require 40 opinions based on an event. So that 40 people must consider 24 boys and 16 girls. So till you reach 24 boys and 16 girls, till the quota is established, you can select. After that you will stop. Now coming to the advantages of this quota sampling, here each stratum is generally represented, and this type of sampling is generally useful whenever the resources are limited. Coming to the disadvantages, samples may not be of the desired quality. So this applies to all the sampling methods of the non-probability type. Now let us see the outline of this particular topic. So basically this sampling thing is done so that you need a particular group of people on whom a research is being done, so that we can get an answers and you can generalize that to the entire population. So reducing sampling errors is the major goal in any sampling technique, because you need the information to be accurate, and a sample should be big enough to answer the research question, but it should not be so big that the process of sampling becomes uneconomical. So this is about sampling, and we have even seen the two important methods, that is the probability sampling and the non-probability sampling methods. Thank you.